Greetings, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Embodied Connections. This is Chelsie, Lael Kennedy with EEL Health and Wellness Aegis and Katie Pudwill with Grow RDH, and we are excited to be continuing on this Embodied Connections conversation. Today we are talking about the inner lift, our jaw, our diaphragm, and pelvic floor, and what the yogis call the bandhas, and how it's actually all really connected. If you've been listening over the past few episodes, you might already feel the thread we've been following: breath, jaw tension, and now pelvic floor health. And the way the body quietly tells the truth long before the mind does. So with that, I invite you in. This episode's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more of an embodied experiential versus a conversational. I'm excited to see what Katie doesn't know what I'm going to say. And I know that she has more to contribute to the conversations once she sees the connections of the things I'm going to bring up. So expect some interjections from her that are going to be like impromptu. She's like, oh yes, that's something that we do with dental hygienists. And that's been what's so awesome about this conversation is we are from two different niches, but we overlap. And ultimately what we're talking about is the human condition. So whether you are a dental hygienist tuning in or a practicing, aspiring, yoga instructor, or if you are just the general person who goes to the dentist, right? This is going to have life embodied application for you. So without further ado, of course, I'm going to invite you to settle in where we're at. Taking that expansive breath. And as we go through the recap, I want to hit on some things that, I forgot to bring up during those conversations, but they're so interconnected that we can keep talking about them and see how each one of these episodes actually ties to the other. So in the first episode, we introduced ourselves, what our specialties are, and then how that applies to this conversation. Katie is in trauma-informed dental hygienist and teacher, professor, and very involved with bringing the trauma-informed practices to the dental world. And that is such a niche, new, what's the word I'm looking for? Pioneering trail, to be honest. Like you're out there waving your flag, like it's awesome. And she's in small town rural America, and it's just a neat place to flagship, because honestly, the trauma-informed practices are the slowest to reach these rural places. We then followed that with how nasal breath is our superpower, how you can actually breathe in 20% more fresh oxygen that is also like moistened through the nose, filtered through the nose, and how that mouth breathing doesn't only affect our oral health, but our posture, contributing to a forward head posture. It contributes to anxiety, sleep disruption, and even a sense of confidence or disempowerment. We then moved on into the jaw clenching and grinding, how they're not just bad habits, but actually they're nervous system strategies, and how this chronic tension can leave us braced and always holding, always preparing, and always in that sympathetic nervous system, that reactive fight, flight, fawn, freeze, fornicate. A lot of people don't talk about all of those, right? But there are actually 5 Fs, right? So today, this is where it all comes together. We're talking about not just the muscle mechanics, but I want to share the ancient systems that are being proven in modern neuroscience today. So really, we don't need anything but our breath, and our breath through our nose. So it's always an invitation to just breathe with me and let this information wash over you, because that integration is going to happen when you're in a relaxed setting, when you've shifted into your parasympathetic nervous system. Rest, digest, repair. Yeah. Thank you so much for being with me. So, a few off the mat tips, like I like to call them in my yoga pod class, relating back to our first few episodes. We are talking about breathing through our nose, but the question that I get, right, is like, I can't breathe through my nose. And Katie had mentioned some sprays with xylitol in it. I wanted to also introduce some Ayurveda tips that come from the sister science of yoga. to support our breath by clearing those passages. One of those is the neti pot, where you take a saline solution. Yeah, Katie knows what I'm talking about. Yes. And using distilled water and clearing those nasal passages. It's really weird and you'll be surprised at what comes out, but I promise it's worth it. And Ayurveda also talks about Nasya, Nasya, which is actually an oil that you put in your nasal passage to keep it clear, keep it moist, especially during these drier times of year. So those are 2 nasal clearing passage tips that you can incorporate to enhance the power of your nasal breath. Another one that's very interesting and related to our jaw, because it's in our mouth, is tongue scraping. We collect so much bacteria and stuff while we sleep in the back of our tongue. And then when we drink that in, we're basically drinking in everything that our body was trying to detox overnight. So if one of the first things that you do after you eliminate in the morning is go wash your hands, scrape your tongue before brushing your teeth and taking in your first cup of coffee or lemon water, if you're on that kick, you're going to clear out all that bacteria that's been stagnant in your body, and you're going to help continue to cleanse your sinuses. Those are a few of my tidbits that didn't come up in the conversations. If you want more information about the nasal passages, the jaw tension and clenching, please watch our first few episodes. They were fire. Anyway, so like I said today,
they were fire. I love that.
yes. So with that, I'm going to keep calling our nervous system back into regulation. I get excited, so I'm like, ride that, and I start talking faster. But really, the point of these little sessions and nuggets are to have some key takeaways, regulate the nervous system in real time. So you'll see me doing that. You'll see me returning to that deep nasal breath, expanding through the belly, because a lot of us will reverse breathe. That was covered too, right? Where we'll breathe in and suck our belly in. Check what you're doing, right? And if you can switch it in your mind consciously in these practicing moments, or, right before a client comes in, or if you are the client, right before you go into your session, switch that breath. Breathe expansively into the belly, and then exhale, softening the belly, relaxing the jaw, and imagine like you're pulling the belly button to the spine. These practices aren't intended to fix the body. It's actually just to remove the obstacles through awareness and breath, so the body can reorganize and align itself. Because when the breath can move, everything downstream begins to soften. So, how does this relate to our jaw, our diaphragm, and our pelvic floor? Well, in the yogic tradition, we have what are called bandhas. And this coordination is actually super intricate. And I want to be very clear that we're not clenching and holding in these spaces intentionally. Oftentimes what we're doing is we're clenched, locked down, bracing in these spaces, and then restricting our flow. So when you're noticing that clenching, see if you can soften and let go as we move through these spaces that I'm about to describe. In our jaw, we have muscles that connect down to our neck and upper shoulders, and this is known as our top diaphragm. And in yoga, we call it the Jalandhara Bandha. And when it is overworking or overactive, you're going to notice clenching during the day, grinding and bruxism at night, tension headaches, neck stiffness, and even limited range of motion in the shoulders and the neck. Shoulders that creep up towards your ears. Yeah, right? Feel as I'm describing, because that noticing, you may notice numbness, you may notice tingling, you may notice nothing at all. All of that information, but the magic is in the noticing. In taking that breath, rolling the shoulders up to the ears and down the back, and maybe even bringing some gentle support to your jaw, feeling in, where is it tense? One of my favorite practices from the Human Garage is he has you take and you find a sensitive spot in your mouth with your tongue. Like, feel around in your mouth with your tongue and a spot that's tender. And then hold your tongue there and breathe through your nose for 3 rounds of breath. So if you found one, I'll do it with you. Inhale, and let your tongue go and notice what you feel. What do you notice, Katie?
I just feel more relaxed, but that could just be me taking deep breaths. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a synergistic effect. When we start noticing and taking those breaths, we're going to create that parasympathetic nervous system activation. That is the switch. That is the vagal toning. So Interestingly enough, life happens, right? We were trying to record and it wasn't working. And here we are trying to scramble, like, okay, are we going to do this?
Yeah.
We were activated.
And now we're relaxed. And now we're
Right?
relaxed.
It's that ability to switch back down, rev up,
Yeah.
and then come back down. So often in our society, we get revved up and we don't have the tool system or even the space, seemingly so, but we are the ones that have to be in charge of creating that space to downregulate. So thank you for being here with me. Thank yourself for showing up today. Like I said, it's an experiential practice with lots of little golden nuggets in here. Other things you'll notice when your jaw is tight is how your tongue is pressing in to the roof of your mouth. Maybe just running the tip of your tongue along the roof of your mouth and noticing any tenderness, even in the tongue or on the roof of the mouth. And can you let your jaw go 1% more down? This area is deeply connected to vigilance, that sense that you have to stay alert or hold it all together. And when we relax through the jaw, we're actually going to create space to relax through the diaphragm and relax into that pelvic bowl. Because when the jaw tightens, the neck shortens. And when the neck shortens, the shoulders lift. And when the shoulders lift, the breath loses its natural access to the body. So to reverse all that, right, we roll the shoulders down the back, find length from the ears to the shoulders, bringing the neck back. And here's going to be a fun one, and this is going to get into the energy science of things, the chakras, right? Our throat chakra. And the funny thing is, you don't have to believe in chakra systems. You have glands and nerve plexuses, and science is showing that the same place that these ancient yogis found chakra systems, MRIs are showing that we have nerve plexus systems. So you're not
Go
exempt.
figure.
Yes, you're not exempt. So I am going to talk about the chakra really quick, which is the connection between our jaw and our ears, our ability to communicate, hear, be heard, understand, be understood, and communicate, right? So it creates this upside down triangle. So if you ever want to do a self little practice about what truths you are holding on to, I invite you to do what we call like the duck goose in yoga. You're going to pull back your neck, shoulders back, and you're going to see this stuff right here that creates your double chin. Yes. Some of what we do in our forward head posture is to hide this double chin. So when you are working on retoning and reshaping your neck to an aligned posture, practicing this. Yep. And then forward with the goose and then back to duck. You're going to start toning these muscles down here. You're going to get rid of your double chin naturally. But don't be surprised when you start speaking your truth more naturally. And I am a yogi, so my philosophy is ahimsa, which is a whole part of a whole limb of yoga. Yoga is not just about the movement. It is also about the self-reflection and the practices and the breath, the interoception, truth and love, right? So you're still going to have a filter, and understanding that sometimes when we speak the truth, it's still sharp and it still hurts. But our unspoken truth gets stored in the body, and The Body Keeps the Score is a beautiful book that was written in the 80s. Let your truth be told. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Have you noticed that in your own experiences? So the throat chakra is where we like hold in our communication. Is that kind of the theme behind that?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yep. And
Okay.
I've seen my face change shape, right? I've worked on it, and I am still holding on to things. It's like, oh my gosh, what is it?
Yeah.
But it becomes a journey of self, and I really have dived down into that. To know thyself is to know God. We were made in the likeness and divinity of our Creator. And when we can explore ourselves on that interoceptive cellular level, which is also what yoga and breathwork does. And I'm saying yoga and breathwork as if they're separate, but breathwork is a part of yoga. And
Yeah.
it's a subtle nuance, because often in our Western philosophy, we think of a yoga class. You're going to go, you're going to breathe, you're going to move, and you're going to go home. But really yoga in my type of practice is a lifestyle, and we're trying to tune it in at that 1% of a present moment shift at a time, to where you are present when you're doing the dishes. You're finding magic in the mundane of laundry. Yeah, right. Because these are the things that we.
Which I have to go do about 3 loads this afternoon. So I will keep that in mind as I'm folding my laundry.
Yes, and you can be doing your duck and goose, and you can be
Yep, I will.
releasing through this diaphragm. I don't know why I always want to type diagram. This is something that has happened to me throughout my whole journey of practice, and someday maybe I will get it right. Otherwise, I just invite the joyful playfulness of the nuanced words.
Right.
So as we move on down to that next diaphragm, we are at the ribs, and this is called Uddiyana Bandha. And when it is misfiring or stuck, you're going to notice that shallow chest breathing. You're going to freak out sighing or yawning, which is actually really good for your nervous system. And it's helping you try to get back onto that parasympathetic response when you have those exaggerated sighs, exhales, spontaneous yawns. But also when that diaphragm is stuck, feeling that your breath won't go all the way in. Just noticing if you're trying to expand with air, you're filling up through the belly, the diaphragm is moving downwards towards the pelvic floor, or it's not. Noticing what you notice, right? These moments of awareness that's going to shift it into something that happens naturally, and you didn't create these subtle habits in your body overnight, so it's not going to disappear overnight. But with awareness and continued return, you're gonna notice a snowball effect, which ends up being exponential. And be like, oh wow, that feels good. I'm excited to keep going because I know where we're going.
Yeah. And you know how bad my pelvic floor is because I've already shared with you.
Yes, and it's really neat when we get to be kind of our own test subjects, because when we are going through the experience ourselves, we develop the authority to say, this is how I did it. And while all of our
Mhm.
paths are different, there are some common core themes and practices that are human. And our breath is definitely one of them. Our postural alignment is definitely another one of them. Our conscious awareness and our ability to be present with what is. A regulated nervous system is not just zenned out peace all the time. It is activating into the fight or flight when necessary. But a healthy nervous system is able to downregulate after the threat is gone and not continue perpetuating in a cycle that snowballs. Modern neuroscience tells us that 17 seconds of a thought is going to create a snowball effect. So if you catch yourself in a spiral, you're like, nope, nope, I'm going to feel my toes. I'm going to breathe through my nose. Not feeling the toes is rooting you down, anchoring your interoception, feeling the support of the earth beneath you, possibly beneath your seat if you're seated, even along your back. Yep. And then the softening of the eyebrows. You're just changing what your mind is focused on for 17 seconds to interrupt a pattern, break a habit. Yeah. And it's turning to consistency. 1% turns into 2%. And I've never read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, but I have sat with how powerful that title is. In these presence practices, I'm just like, I kind of want to read the book now that I've experienced. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is power, and not to be feared, right? This is a power that we are all inherently given, and we are too distracted in the survivals and necessities of life to truly check in and be like, how am I feeling right now? What can I offer my body right now? So as we continue in this Uddiyana Bandha, the second diaphragm, we're breathing down into our bellies, into our pelvic floor, because it's all connected, sitting up tall. Noticing any tightness in the ribs or mid-back, offering your hands as support on your ribs, and you can feel them expand as you inhale. And while you're doing this, when you're doing this appropriately, anatomically speaking, the way our bodies were designed, your posture naturally improves. And these muscles, which we call the inner corset in yoga, right? They're often deadened because we're not using them properly. And our digestion sucks because we're not giving our internal digestive organs the proper internal massage with our breath. And we're not breathing through our nose. But you guys are, because you guys listen to the power of nasal breathing. Getting 20% more oxygen to the body, which increases nutrient absorption. So on another tangent, our soils have been depleted of nutrients and we don't have the same nutritional value in our foods. And then if we're not breathing properly on top of it, we're getting even less absorption. And then if you're drinking alcohol, sorry, I'm going to plug on the sobriety thing here for a second. When you drink alcohol, you actually shut down the enzymes to absorb nutrition. So, okay, and one more. Our pharmaceuticals, they are depleting our mineral content of our body. So anything that we can do to increase our nutritional mineral absorption, and breathing is free, right? In a world that costs everything, breathing is free.
It literally is, and it's such a simple thing to do, yet how many people don't. I mean, it's just, it blows my mind how simple all of this is so simple. It's things that we know, like good posture. Like we don't know all the ins and outs like you do of like the yoga and even like the chakras and stuff, but the ins and outs of like how simple some of this stuff is, but yet we don't. It's just, yeah, why? I think you said earlier, like we're too distracted.
Probably by design, that little conspiracy mindset of mine. But we have to take our power back. And when I talk about power, I used to kind of fear power and I didn't realize it. But then I read it in the Constitution. And when you read the Declaration of Independence of the Constitution, they have power with a capital P, power and liberties that were bestowed to all of us. And it made me more curious. Power to the people? We have inherent power. And our power is in our presence. Our power is in our breath. Our power is in our anatomical alignment and our energy systems working in flow. So that's the thing, is all of these systems are working whether we know they are or not. Taking this time to tune into them and learn about them expands the intentional coherence and effect. So they're operating for you, and we're diving in to say, you know what, I want to take control of what I can take control of. I want to orchestrate what I can, and our breath is the beginning. So breathing with me, still down in those expansive rib places. We're getting down into our pelvis, but not yet. What is happening when the diaphragm isn't fully descending? The breath stays up here. We get those shallow breaths. And that is an immediate trigger to our brain to alert anxiety. They don't have enough breath. The full body is not getting oxygen as designed. Fix it. And when we ignore it, just like when we ignore our thirst signals or hunger signals, we override them. Our body kind of stops signaling them, and we just adapt. That's how cool our bodies are. But we can call ourselves back into homeostasis, and we can align our nervous systems. We can rewire old habits and patterns and even beliefs about ourselves. But it has to come through awareness. Where are we not feeling good enough? Where are we holding on to? And we don't have to give a story behind it. Our body is already holding it. But by breathing into those spaces and those places that feel like tightness, like density, like stickiness or rigidness, ooh, that's the work. That's where it's at. And when you give yourself permission to do the work, to show up and breathe into those spaces without even giving them a story, without judging them, but loving them with compassion, you automatically shift your frequency that radiates out and is measurably felt 6 feet from us, scientifically proven, right? So when you are in intimate spaces, right, in the chair with a client, your energies are right there. And
We absorb everything.
Yes. Yes. So getting the opportunity for humans to balance, for humans to breathe and be aware of what's happening interoceptively. We're taking autonomy and responsibility for our own selves and understanding that we are more than just these physical beings. We are electromagnetic beings with nervous system responses. And we're tuning and attuning to each other's nervous systems all the time, whether we are aware of it or not. Where a lot of that bracing and holding and tension comes from. Sometimes it might not even be yours. So these practices and these notices and awareness is going to be key to letting it go, because energetically you're holding on to it and then possibly taking it home. And we don't want it at home either, right? So when we're taught what to do with these energetics, with our nervous system, with these responses, instead of numbing them out in all of the various ways that we can, right? We come back to presence. We move on with our breath and into our pelvic floor. And when we're moving slowly here, because this can be such a sensitive topic. Our pelvic floors are where our trauma lives. And that's not just sexual trauma, right? In yogi terms, we call the hips the junk drawer. It's where we shove the things that we don't have time to deal with, we don't have resource or education or knowledge or words for to deal with, and that just perpetuates. It's perpetuated by our seating positions, our driving positions, which yes is a seated position, but I know I'm speaking to a dental hygienist crowd, and office workers also have a different seated position than driving. I am still so upset with the driving industry because they have made seats for everybody that keep their knees above their hips, which shortens the psoas and adds increased pressure on our low back. And when our base is not right, our top is not going to be right. So we're being pulled out of alignment, not only on our way to and from work, to and from recreation, but possibly while we're at that show or at work. And being aware of all the nuances and approaching this with grace and compassion for self, like you are not 100% at fault, but you are 100% at responsibility, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah. And once you know better, you have the capacity to do better. And right now, for many of you, this might just be information in, and that's okay. Sometimes it takes revisiting the information, hearing it a different way from a different source, or just nervous system readiness to apply. So if you are glazing over because I just said pelvic floor, that's okay. I'm with you. We are holding space. We're going to breathe into it. When your pelvic floor and your lower hips, in yoga we call this the mula bandha, is overholding, you're going to notice things like tailbone pressure or low back pain, tightness in your hips, or even a click in your hips. Things like constipation or difficulty fully eliminating, hemorrhoids or anal fissures, and pelvic heaviness or pain, even urinary urgency and leakage, and pain with penetration or difficulty relaxing. Yeah, I'm on the hemorrhoids one. It's
I'm on the urinary urgency and leakage. Yeah,
yeah.
not good.
And it happens from so many things. Again, how we sit, how our nervous system's responding, labor and delivery, carrying children, rites of passage per se, and things that honestly women are just like, oh, this is normal. I sneeze and I pee. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And awareness is the first step. Our nervous system, our vagus nerve runs from our anus all the way up to the base of our skull. Our clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. I'm not sure what the male's is. I think ours is much more sensitive and another conversation. But my
We're
point
just
is,
blessed, I guess.
yes, is that our nervous system is potent and it is all interwired and interconnected. Our fascial network holds together the skin to our muscle, the muscle to our bone, all of these organs in place. And then it also sends electrical impulses throughout the body connected to our nervous system and also connected to our body's natural anti-inflammatory system, our natural ibuprofen, if you will. We were designed and equipped to do these things. And getting into a place of stillness, regulated breath, is the only place that repair can happen. So if you are still here, maybe you are glazed over, but you're staying in tune and in present. Your subconscious is still taking this information in, and none of this is weakness. Actually, it is a holding pattern that has required an endurance of strength. It has been protective, but when you know better, you can do better. And we learn that not always holding actually takes strength. It takes strength to let go. And then you can hear in the mindset community, in the self-development community, you got to let go. You just got to let go. But what about those things that you can't let go of? What about those things that actually require integration, right? It's a subtle nuance. Some things get put in the let go category. And when we let go, we create the space and the capacity to receive. But some of the things require integration. And that integration kind of acts like a mortar plugging up the holes that builds your capacity to hold the goodness that's trying to come to you. So then you don't have this porous strainer of goodness falling into you, but just running through and not taking root or not being absorbed in a way that your body can hold, your nervous system can hold. This can even look like financial impacts, emotional cycles and loops. And here's the clearing space. So here's the holding space. So when the pelvic floor grips, it's because it often doesn't feel support from above. So here's our jaw. What is your unspoken truth? And when we speak our unspoken truth, that it gives us space to release through our hips. So there's such a give and take between these spaces that, we massage through the jaw. We've talked about myofascial therapy. We've talked about dry needling and physical therapy. We're talking about breath work and the things that you can do right now to have an impact. One of the other favorite things about all these connections of the diaphragm is you can rest into it. This time of year, we are in December, is the perfect time to slow down in all the busyness and be in some restorative practices. So some of my favorite restorative practices to open up through this upper heart space that's connected to this upper diaphragm is to take a towel and roll it, or if you have a yoga block or a bolster or pillows or blankets, and you put it right here at the base of your shoulder blades and just lay open over it. And you can have a support underneath your neck also, or not. But it's really tuning in to the wisdom of your body and trying both out, taking a few rounds of breaths and asking myself, how can I support myself even 1% more? How can I be 1% more comfortable? And permission to be. Laying there for 3 to 5 minutes, either in stillness or finding a gentle rocking with your neck back and forth, side to side, breathing into your belly, right? Breathing into the pelvic floor. So when you are breathing, the diaphragm drops, the pelvic floor drops, and then like a balloon or one of those balance ball chairs, which I highly, highly recommend. Yes.
They're awesome.
Right. It helps that natural support and lift of the pelvic floor, which helps that natural support and lift of the diaphragm to go up and down like it's supposed to, giving the body the internal massage and then plugging up that leaky gap, right? So you're not losing your energetic pranic life force. You're recirculating it back up and bringing your gifts out to the world, energetically speaking, physically speaking. And then you're infused by what you do instead of drained by what you do. You're protecting your energy also by staying fully aware with this kind of top down, bottom up approach.
Can I ask you, Chelsie, for those that may be listening that really don't even know what the pelvic floor is, can you describe the sensation? We talked a lot about the jaw and relaxing your jaw and tongue to the roof of your mouth. I think when we talk about those things, we can actually do those things and feel them. But what are the sensations in the body part, or how does it feel when you're holding tension in your pelvic floor versus when you're relaxing your pelvic floor?
So,
is that a dumb question?
No, it's a beautiful question.
Okay.
Most people, we actually don't have a mind muscle connection to our pelvic floor. And the default state is holding.
Attention.
So, yes. So with that tension, you don't even know you're holding it, and it's all just there. And it takes coming into the practice to feel that shift and that release. So after you've laid in, kind of opened up this neck heart space, you can move your towel or support just to the top of your hips. And then you're opening up through that pelvic space. And one of my favorite things to do from that space is to have your heels put into the earth, the toes facing up, and then rock back and forth.
On the towel?
Yep. So you're just kind of, your heels are pulling you back and forth like this. And you are rocking in, and you can do that also without the supported space beneath, and I highly recommend it. So if you were to do 3 minutes opening up through the heart space, 3 minutes through the pelvic space, and then remove your support and do 3 minutes there, again, with the rocking of the heels back and forth, you're just going to encourage the muscles to relax. And it might not be the pelvic floor layer right away that relaxes. It might be the surrounding muscles that are bracing in the hips and the low back first. But we're going to keep getting to those deeper layers every time we return again for 1% of your day, right? Less
Yeah.
than 15 minutes. Decompress, just be, and then you turn that into, actually, I check in 3 times a day for 15 minutes, and that's 3% of our day, less than an hour. And you've created a whole internal shift in your body, in your nervous system, and a regulation pattern that, if you do it in the morning, you're set till lunch. You check in again at lunch, you're set till the end of the day. And then you check in at the end of the day, you're set for your home. And you watch your body, and your body being your nervous system, but also the physical body where the tension used to hold, or when this used to make you mad or reactive, you're like, I'm soft and permission to be, right? Because
Yeah.
normally when little things are bothering us, it's not about that little thing, right? It's something deeper. It's in our core. We're probably shoving it in our hips, not dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always the smallest little thing that will set you over, but it's really like the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, it wasn't that one piece of straw. It was literally my whole day, and then that was the one, like met my limit. I can't.
Yeah. Yep.
How about, so like for hygienists, like they're working, you have an 8-hour day, you might see 8 to 10 patients a day in that very awful seated position. Are there anything like exercises or like things that you could maybe do without laying down, like maybe standing up or something to release? Like if maybe they had like 5 minutes between a patient, what would you recommend just during the workday of kind of being more aware of that tension and then maybe releasing the tension, even though you got to sit down and go do another patient?
Yeah. Um, a few things. In between patients, some of the things that you can do are the yogi squat. You've got your
Mm,
hands
you
together.
taught me that.
Yes, and then your thumbs come to your sternum. You're going to pull the shoulders on the back, and then you're going to squat down in between your knees and use your elbows to press your knees out. And then instead of letting your pelvic floor drop, you're going to pull it up or hold the intention to do so. There's work there, and you're noticing matters, journaling a few things that might come up. So you don't have to take that with you, just like, oh, I felt this, and sensationally, emotionally, or just a thought loop that comes up when you're popping down into that little yogi squat. Interestingly enough, in Thailand, that is not only how they eat, but also like their soccer players wait on the side of the field in the yogi squat. I was like,
Really?
yes, I was like, that is so fascinating. Yeah.
So we should be doing that between every patient.
Right, right. I mean, and if you could get a platform so you could do the yogi squat and be cleaning mouths, I mean
Yeah,
that might be the next best thing, but I
yeah.
don't know if we're ready
Well,
for that yet.
maybe that. I love that.
Another one that I do love is also the forward fold. And when you're in your forward fold, either taking your hands and putting them firmly but gently onto the floor, so you're plugging in the fingertips and the palms. Now, not forcing yourself there, bend your knees as much as it takes to get you there. That support is going to actually get you more flexibility in a quicker amount of time than if you force yourself into a straightforward fold. You want to open up in response to your nervous system, and the forward fold is a very introspective nervous system calming shape. So when you then play with, oh, I'll extend one leg and then the other, and finally getting into, or not, right, a straight-legged forward fold, you're giving permission to open up as their lotus unfolds, like that so beautifully. You're opening up through the legs, you're opening up through the lower back in a way that's safe and protective of your lower back and spine. When we talk about that mineral depletion, stress depletes our mineral. It zaps the minerals from our bones and our body. That's why it's replenishment. That's why nitrous oxide and the absorption is so, so, so important. But when you're calming your nervous system, you're training that heart rate variability, that vagal toning, you're not taking as much of a toll on that with that stress response. So forward folds. The other thing that you can do when you're in your forward fold is hold opposite elbows and kind of ragdoll, just let it move, right? When we're
That is one of my favorite things during any yoga session I've ever done. I just love like that hanging when you kind of sway. It's one of my favorites.
Yes. And tuning into, there's a reason it's your favorite. Your body is calling for it. You're just noticing that you're already following your internal body wisdom and celebrating that. And every time that you show up to be like, oh, I want to, stretch in whatever way that looks like, celebrating that. I don't know how many times I've been to a yoga class and how much ego it took to get over to do something different than what the rest of the class was doing. And whether it was moving
Hmm.
slower because my breath was different than theirs, or you know what, I just felt like being in a child's pose while everyone is in warrior. You have
Yeah.
permission to be, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I would suggest for hygienists, of course, are the yoga ball or body ball chairs. Again, that supports the natural rising back up of the pelvic floor. Where if you're sitting on a hard chair, even a soft surface chair, or those saddle chairs, it's such a hard surface, and everything just kind of sits and rests there, and it's not helping your muscle tone down there. And
Yeah.
this goes for men and women. And I'm going to go there, right? Sex shouldn't hurt. And if it
Yeah.
is painful for a male or a female, right, it's likely linked to a pelvic floor issue. And this is something that is very, very common for very many, many people. And we need to remove any shame and stigma around it, because I think that it affects relationships, right? There is this lack of interconnectedness, and maybe shame will like, well, it hurts. And see a pelvic floor therapist, see a myofascial therapist, because when you can release through the jaw, you're going to release through your hips. There is help, and these conversations are getting more common, and here we are talking about it. So that's just a plug. Like, feel good
Yeah.
inside of your body. That's what I love to help people do. I like to help them breathe into being and finding those micro moments of time. Like I said, this was very educational, experiential. I hope you are still breathing, even if you glazed over some of the information. This will be here to return to at any time. And even if you listen to it, return to the practice part of it. Turning in these podcast episodes as if you were tuning into a practice. And with that being said, I do have a practice that you can do at any time. If you want to do it with me standing today, I want to thank you all for joining us. And I want to end with a seated or standing 3-minute Bandha practice. I'm readjusting the camera here. Mm. Settling in your breath. If it feels okay, standing with me now. Standing with your feet hip width apart, knees soft, weight evenly distributed through the feet. Imagine your body stacked gently, head over ribs, ribs over your pelvis. Nothing to fix, only noticing. Gently closing your lips, allowing your teeth to part slightly. Place the tongue softly on the roof of the mouth, and then relax the root of the tongue toward the throat, or simply hold the intention to do so. As you exhale, feel the jaw melt downward. Inhaling again slowly through the nose. And again, extending your exhale even slower through the nose. Feeling the back of the neck lengthen, the shoulders dropping away from the ears, open on the back. And notice how softening the jaw gives the breath somewhere to go. moving your awareness to the ribs in your belly. Continuing as you inhale through the nose. Feeling the ribs expand sideways. Feel them widen in the back. Yeah. And feel the belly gently expanding. Feel the diaphragm drop downward, pressing into the abdominal space. And as you exhale, feel the ribs soften inward, the diaphragm lift upward, and the belly naturally draw back in. No force. The breath moves down on the inhale and up on the exhale. This upward return is where Uddiyana Bandha emerges. Naturally. Not by sucking it in. Continuing on, bringing awareness to the base of the pelvis. As you inhale, the diaphragm drops. Imagine feeling the pelvic floor soften, widening downwards on the inhale like a hammock receiving weight. And as you exhale, the diaphragm lifts, feeling the pelvic floor gently rebound upwards. Not squeezing, just responding. This is Mula Bandha. Reflexive, elastic, alive. Feeling the whole system working together as one. We're going to inhale the jaw soft, neck long, ribs widen, diaphragms descend, pelvic floor softens downward. Exhale, throat remains soft, diaphragms lift, pelvic floor gently lifts in response. Center feels supported, not rigid. This is Bandha. Not something you do, but something that happens when breath moves freely. When one area releases, the others often respond. Why this even works. The Jalandhara Bandha relates to the throat, jaw, tongue, and cervical spine. This shape releases excessive tone without collapsing posture. It allows your spine to be upright, lifting slightly of the chin. And if you're lengthening the back of your neck, not forcing the head down. Inhaling through the nose. Bringing in Uddiyana Bandha, our diaphragm and our ribs. This shape gives the diaphragm space to descend fully on the inhale and rebound naturally on the exhale. Maintaining your breath from the jaw to the diaphragm. Invitation to stand with your feet hip width apart. Softening your knees. And then hinging forward at the hips and letting your torso drape. Arms heavy or perhaps holding your elbows, head hanging. Letting gravity do the work. Inhale through the nose. Feel the breath expand, the ribs sideways and into the back. Exhale slowly. Feel the belly naturally draw inward as the diaphragm lifts. No sucking it in, no forcing. Just breath moving down on the inhale and gently up on the exhale. Coming up out of our standing forward fold, or perhaps you're seated. And coming down into our malasana, our yogi squat. This is one of the most natural positions for pelvic floor lengthening, responsiveness, and grounding. It allows this lower diaphragm to soften on the inhale and rebound on the exhale. Exactly how we were programmed to function. So to get into this, you bring your feet a little bit wider than your hips, toes turned out slightly to like an 11 and 1 o'clock position. Even 10 and 2, somewhere that feels good for your lower back. Lowering down into the squat, you can place a block or rolled towel underneath your seat, or even underneath your heels, wherever feels supported for you. Hands at heart, resting forward. Inhale through the nose and feel the pelvic floor gently widen and soften downward. Exhale slowly and feel that subtle rebound upward like a trampoline, responding, not squeezing. Permission for the belly to be soft, the jaw to stay relaxed and softening between the eyebrows. Feeling the support of the seat or your feet beneath you. Not clenching, but a responsive lift created by your breath. When the jaw softens, the neck releases. When the neck releases, the breath can drop. When the breath drops, the pelvic floor doesn't have to grip. So, if one area feels tight, thank yourself for noticing and start there. Soften the top, the bottom will follow. If your body has been holding, it's because it learned how to protect you. Bruxism isn't betrayal. Hemorrhoids aren't failure. Shallow breath isn't lazy. These are messages, not mistakes. Today, you gave your body a new option. Take one final breath in through the nose and a long, slow exhale. Thank yourself for showing up. Thank your body for adapting the best way it knew how. You're not broken. You are becoming more connected. And as always, you are the current. We'll see you next time. Namaste.